Here we are.
Strikes, Russian missile strikes across Ukraine today, whether this strayed across the border. So the exact circumstances clearly being examined as we talk, but those reports that 2 people have been killed. Let's get the latest from our Europe correspondent, Siobhan Robbins, who's in Berlin at the moment. And more information, a little bit scarce at the moment. Siobhan, have you got any more on precisely what the circumstances are, first of all?
Well, that's what the ongoing investigation is now looking at. We understand that firefighters are at the scene at this village on the border with Ukraine in Poland. The village is called Shevardov. We understand from local media reports that 2 people have died after missiles hit grain silos. What we don't know really is, as you say, was this a deliberate attack on Poland, or was this because of this barrage of missiles which have been hammering Ukraine today? So investigations still going on. We know that the Prime Minister has called this emergency meeting in Poland where he'll be talking to his defense experts, also the Pentagon confirming that they are looking into these reports. But I think the big question now will be, what will the NATO response be? And that, of course, will all depend on what we find out about these missiles that have hit. Were they deliberately targeting Poland or not? But we do know, of course, that Poland is a member of NATO. And we also know, of course, that very important clause in the NATO agreement that if someone who is part of NATO is attacked, then other NATO members will come to their defence. We're not at that point at the moment. As I say, we are still investigating. They are still investigating what has happened, but a very serious point in this conflict.
OK, Siobhan, thanks for the update. We'll be back with you as more information emerges. But that issue, the key issue here is, of course, that Poland is a NATO member. So on that subject, let's talk to Fabrice Potier.
If you've just joined us, I'm Martyn Lucas, the investor. We are trading and investing, but of course, this is very, very important. All Europe and all NATO countries are protected, and the red line was you do not attack a NATO member. It may be a stray missile, it may be shot down. 22 has just said they think it was a missile shot down by Ukraine. However, this is what happens when you go to war. This is what happens when you fire right on the border. All of a sudden, there's a mistake, it goes too far. And then do we act? And this basically is an attack now on the whole of NATO. If it can be proved that it was intentional, I don't know where we go from here. This could be a very black day indeed. So we're focusing on this as well as our shares and investing today. But this is huge news today.
Case, I think here there's enough ground for triggering what is just below Article 5, which is Article 4, which is basically Poland asking all the NATO members to come to the NATO headquarters and to consult each other to assess the threat and to take concrete actions, which can be defensive, not going after Russia, but augmenting mostly Poland's air defense, and obviously also augmenting Ukraine's air defense, because Ukraine is de facto the first line of defense of the alliance.
I'm bringing this information to you from Sky News. It's straight facts, unbiased. There's no political slant. It's just what I listen to, the BBC and Sky News. That's where I'm getting my source from.
In Ukraine today, and where one of the missiles went off course.
Yes, exactly. But I think it's enough to show, if it's incidental, it's enough to show that Poland is exposed to a very high level to the consequences of Russia's war in Ukraine. And again, I think there's enough ground here, but we'll have to see what the Polish government says after their National Security Committee. There's enough ground in principle for Poland as a NATO member to trigger Article 4 and ask the other NATO members to consult each other, assess the threat, and take necessary actions.
OK, that's interesting. So Article 4. Now, Article 5, as you described to us there, Fabrice Potier, is then the military response. To get to that level, presumably there are many attempts to de-escalate the situation, even if it's decided to trigger Article 5, i.e. there will be discussions taking place with Russia at this point.
What's your thoughts in the live chat? Do you think this is now the beginning of the end? World War III? It's an attack on NATO. We're supposed to attack back now. What do you think?
But I think what is clear is NATO needs to mark very clearly its red line on the fact that the NATO territory is untouchable. And since it has happened even by, if it's by accident, I think NATO needs to take some form of action, again, if even defensive action, to show that this cannot occur. And I think there's even an argument to actually push back on potential Russian interfering in NATO air space or maritime exclusive zone as a way to show, again, to remind the Russians that they cannot cross this line, even in an intended way.
Okay, I'm sorry we lost a little bit of what you were saying there, Fabrice Potier, but we got the majority of it. But perhaps you can address some of those points again. But I just want to move it forward a little bit because, of course, Poland is incredibly important when it comes to this.
Just to recap, some people are now asking what is going on. Russia have fired a missile, allegedly killing 2 people on the border of Ukraine in Poland. Poland is a NATO member, and the rules are attack on a NATO member is an attack on all, and then they launch an attack back to Russia. It may have been shot down by a Ukrainian missile. We don't know right now. There's all sorts of things happening, but at the end of the day, a Russian missile has landed in Russia. That is the red line. That is the red line. They've stepped over the line. Now we see what happens.
The Polish territory to the Ukrainian border as a legitimate target. But however, until now, at least, they had toed the line. They had not gone further, and they had been basically unwilling to escalate with NATO. And I think that was also a result of NATO's very firm position and statement as to the fact that there would be a NATO collective response. However, again, we don't know if it's intentional or not. The recent, the 2 missiles or rockets that have killed some Polish citizens. But clearly, again, there is a ground for a consultation to assess the level of the threat and to have appropriate defensive response.
And just lastly, in terms of the de-escalation I mentioned, well, of course, you know, when missiles are flying around in a military conflict, well, then things can go wrong. And we remember the NATO actions back at the end of the last century in 1999 against Serbia concerning Kosovo, and the NATO strike, accidental strike on the Chinese embassy in Belgrade.
Yes, but in that case, you cannot draw.
If you've just joined us, we are keeping our eye on this breaking story. Russia fire into Poland. Was it a mistake? Was it a shot down missile? However, it's a NATO country. It has killed 2 Polish people and 2 Polish citizens. And this is the red line. An attack on one NATO country is an attack on all and demands an immediate response. So this is not good at all. This is the red line. So we are going to keep our eye on this. We've got the news running in the background. We are, of course, trading, but we are also and investing, but we are also covering the breaking news, which affects the markets and affects investment and major headlines like this. So there we go. Andrew Grady. Good evening, Andrew Grady, one of our new members. I think you joined yesterday. You got a blue badge. That will turn green soon, then yellow, then gold, then red. Welcome, welcome, welcome to you. Russia will blame Ukraine for altering the missile trajectory, of course. There'll be all kinds of stuff now. But there we go. We are covering this breaking news. My portfolio is 47,671. What's happening best soft? What we are covering this afternoon is some breaking news. Russia have fired into Poland, a NATO country.
So I would think that, yes, sadly it happens, but it happens even more when you strike.
If we get some breaking news, we get any more information, we shall bring it to you. What we're talking about now is they're talking about it's landed in Poland. It could have been an accident, could have been shot down. However, an attack on NATO is an attack on all countries. So we shall see what happens next. Any more information, I'll bring it to you.
At NATO, and you're watching Sky News tonight. Well, we're taking a short break, but when we come back, plenty more on the situation. We've got all our teams trying to get the very latest on what exactly has happened. These reports of a missile strike, a Russian missile striking a village across the border in Poland, killing 2 people.